the time has come,
the walrus said.
Alright, it is time for the Atari Grab Bag 2023 edition. I've done this thing a few times where basically I just play a whole bunch of little Atari games for the channel. Because, Atari games aren't big for the most part, with the exception of, like, Adventure, which was a two-part Let's Play. Most everything's just going to be a little one-off, and that I like doing a collective of in one video. But here's the thing. Every Atari Grab Bag I've done prior to this, as well as any Atari console I've played on the channel before, has been the 2600. Atari has made other consoles, none of which have been nearly as successful as the 2600, but they're still worth checking out, right? Well, anyway, this is the next console that actually came after the 2600, the 5200. Now, the 5200 is an interesting beast. So we're here today to play some 5200 games. Let's get started with Galaxian, starting out player one. And, well, yeah, this is kind of just Space Invaders, isn't it? Oh, there we go. This is just kind of a version of Space Invaders. We have our shoot button. Maybe there's more we can do that I'm missing? Hold on, there's a lot of buttons I gotta push. Oh, God. Alright, I'm on my last life. Get as many points as you can, Jockey. Oh, I was never good Space Invaders to begin with. So I should elaborate here. The 5200, despite being the successor in many ways to the 2600 in its naming convention, in its release year, it kind of was overshadowed by the previous generation and many other markets. So here's the thing. You got the 2600, that was out, that was about, it was successful. At the time, though, there was a lot of stuff going on in the early gaming scene that Atari didn't quite comprehend everything, including a lot of home computer gaming. Home computer game was really skyrocketing around this point, and I need to play some of those games on the channel at some point just to show the early days of home PC gaming, because it's really something. But Atari ended up taking what was originally their design for the next console and reformatting that to a home PC, which became what is known as the 8-bit Atari line, which is actual Atari home computers. And the Atari home computers are fine, fun machines that I think sold pretty darn well. If I know right, I think they did well. But then as the market grew on, there was more demand for home console gaming because there was competition with things like the ColecoVision and the Intellivision, which were direct competitors for Atari and the home console market back in the day. I haven't played any games on those consoles either. Maybe I'll do that at some point. And so basically Atari was like, okay, we have our home consoles, we have the 2600, but we need something new to compete with Mattel mainly, right? Mattel Electronics. So they took their prototype that they then used to make the PC games and used that same like 3-year-old prototype to make a new console. A 3-year-old prototype in 1983 is going to be about on par with a console from 1980, maybe 81 or 82, given, it was a little advanced for its time. But it's still behind compared to the home computer line Atari had. So with a game like Galaxian here, oh god, my controller's broken. Oh god, my controller's broken. I'm not touching the controller. I'm not touching the controller, and he just ran across. Hold on. Look at this. I'm going to the right. I'm going to pause there. So, that was the other huge issue with the 5200. Not only was it kind of old hardware that didn't do anything massively impressive. I mean, this is just a kind of Space Invaders that you could definitely get on 2600 or at least Atari 800, which is the computer line. The controller didn't work. It's not intuitive, because they were just trying to copy ColecoVision and Intellivision, which are really wacky designs, especially by today's standards. But also, the analog stick didn't work. And I was blown away in testing out these ROMs, because I'm not playing on an actual 5200, of course. I'm playing on ROMs on an emulator, and the controller still doesn't work. I've experienced this already, despite testing these for like a couple minutes and just recording this and going for a few minutes here. The controller does not work. So you have a controller that doesn't work, that's unoptimally designed. You have old hardware trying to make something new. Plus, it's not backwards compatible with the computer line or even with the Atari 2600. You have to have Atari 5200 versions of what are a lot of the same games on the system. It's got Pac-Man, it's got Frogger, it's got Mario Bros. All stuff you could get on the 2600. This is also kind of back when people were adjusting to the idea of getting a new console, of upgrading, right? Even when the Super Nintendo rolled around a decade after this, or close to a decade after this, people were like, hey, I already own a Nintendo, why do I gotta buy another one? And so you can imagine in 1983, people weren't like, clamoring to buy a brand new Atari system. So yeah, the Atari 5200 is really one of Atari's biggest failures and biggest blunders. Well, which is saying something because there's a lot. But it's part of the reason I don't have much to talk about in this video. We do have a few games to try. I mentioned how this game has a lot of ports, mainly arcade ports, because it was very easy. Oh, hold on. Here we are, Miss Pac-Man. Because it was very easy to port stuff from the 800 line to the 5200, because again, they used the same prototype hardware. It's the same hardware. You can easily put one game from that onto this, but it wasn't backwards compatible. So again, you had to buy another copy of Miss Pac-Man here, which Miss Pac-Man's great. This version isn't particularly amazing. I mean, it's fine. It's just Miss Pac-Man, except sometimes your controller breaks because it's on the Atari 5200. And there's no boost, at least not that I can tell. I've mapped all the number pad buttons that are on the original controller. None of them do anything in most of these games. Although I do know there used to be, back in the day, a little overlay you could put over those buttons to help tell you what they did in each game. Which is a neat idea, but it's still not intuitive to hold that kind of controller by any means. You know, Miss Pac-Man's here is fine. It's honestly better than the 2600 Pac-Man, just because it's, you know, a little more upgraded, I'd say. But I never played on the Atari 800, and I feel like it would be on par with that, probably. Anyway, we got our little map done. That's fun, you know? Maybe it still has the cutscenes like the arcade version. Oh god, no, we're suddenly back into it. Okay. So, okay, we clearly have Blinky, Pinky, and I guess either Clyde or Sue, because I guess this is Miss Pac-Man, so it's probably Sue. But then who's the green one? That's not Inky. Inky's blue. Who the hell is that ghost? Oh, I got killed by Pinky. Okay. Alright, next game I got on the docket here, Robotron 2084. We got no high score right now. Change the number of players, change the level difficulty. So this is an interesting game where they're working with trying to put an arcade cabinet control scheme onto the Atari 5200's wacky controller, where in the Robotron arcade cabinet, you had two analog sticks, one to move and one to aim, which is like a similar concept to a lot of arcade games. It's like, you know, you're in this third-person perspective here. I only have the one controller currently active, so I can move, but I can't aim my shots. Also, I can't seem to control my shots. He's just firing endlessly. I don't know what the deal is with that. But it's an interesting concept, because the whole thing for how they wanted to work the two analog sticks on the 5200 is just force the player to get a second controller and have that plugged in. Which actually, yeah, the 5200 had 4 controller ports in some cases. In most cases, just 2, but in earlier releases it had 4 controller ports, which is kind of wild for the time. Oh man, come on. Oh, I'm not doing very well. We got our last life here. How am I not taking out those guys? Or are those guys good? Oh, alright, I'm a little lost, but sure. A lot of stuff going on the screen. Hey, at least we got a little high score. So yeah, it's 2 controllers you'd have to plug in and use both analog sticks on each controller. But these controllers broke all the time. Not only are the analog sticks very tricky with how they work, because they didn't... The biggest problem with the analog sticks is they didn't have a reset point. So you'd flick the analog stick one direction, it wouldn't go back to the middle. Like in a modern controller here, or you know what, I'll use Xbox because it's white, so you can see the sticks a little better. But on a modern controller, well, let me focus that. When you move an analog stick, it then, without me moving it at all, it snaps back to the middle. Even with older controllers, like the N64, it does the same thing here. You move it, snaps back to the middle. The 5200 analog stick didn't do that, so it was hard to get it in a neutral position, and a lot of times you'd end up just moving when you didn't mean to move, and you'd die. So topple that with the fact that a lot of the controllers were very prone to breaking and very sensitive. Who's gonna really go out there and purchase 2 controllers, hope they both work with their finicky analog stick, just to play Robotron 2084 at home, when you can go to the arcades and play this exact same game for a quarter? You know, we played E.T. Atari 2600. Oh, see, this is how the game's supposed to be played here. We played E.T. on the Atari 2600, and we've talked a lot about the video game crash of 1984. Home console gaming had really, in a way, become irrelevant. You know, when you could get the better experience for cheaper, then what was really the point of home console gaming? I'm gonna play one more game here that actually kind of interested me in my research here. Look at that intro. Hey, the little shine, you gotta give them credit. Lucasfilm Games, this is Ball Blazer. Oh, we're already in it. So basically, this is like soccer, I guess, where we're trying to find a ball. Oh god, how do I turn? How do I do anything? The CPU's kicking my ass. Because I'm definitely on the upper screen, I'm pretty sure. Where's the ball? Well, okay, I don't know how I'm playing this game or what I'm doing with it, but look, it's impressive for the time, isn't it? I think if technology like this had been utilized better... Oh god, there's the guy running around with that ball. Gimme, 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 gimme! Hey, did I take it? What did I do? Oh, I knocked him into the corner. You doing alright? Oh! Well, regardless, this game's interesting for its graphic style and unique gameplay, I'll give it that. But as you've kind of seen, the 5200 was definitely a lackluster part of Atari's library, and they would do it again in the next console, the 7800, which would have the same weird-ass design controller. It was also very primitive kind of gaming that didn't quite evolve the scene too much. Just in general, Atari fell behind. It's really sad to say. But you know, seeing the 5200 in action, and especially knowing the history, it's kind of easy to understand why. You know, I love Atari, I really do. Atari 2600, one of my favorite consoles, some of my favorite games on that system. Of all time, really. I know it sounds weird considering they're so primitive by today's standards, but they're classic. They're classic, they're memorable. The early days of gaming in that way are just so fantastic. But unfortunately, Atari was not built to last. And so, that's it for Atari Grab Bag this year. I know this is sad. Maybe I'll do another Atari Grab Bag at some point, or play another Atari game on the channel, in some capacity, you know. I feel like they'd be a lot of fun. We played E.T. a couple years back. We'll play something better. I'll think of something, yeah. Actually, I have some ideas. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. I know I was supposed to do the Crash Bandicoot extra part, but I'm gonna be actually delaying that for a little while, because I was thinking of changing up my style for extra parts. Same with the Mario 64 one, which I never even got around to last year, because I forgot and I didn't have the time to edit it. I want to change up how I do extra parts, which may delay them for a little while. But in the meantime, I got some other stuff going on the channel. I mentioned I'm already going to be starting Banjo-Kazooie, although we'll see how that goes. I'm very busy right now. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, as always, and have yourself a very good day. Bye, everyone! Oh god, time's running out.